Hey there, good morning. It's 8:40 a.m. It is May 1st, Thursday morning, and I have decided to come here and make a video really quick. I know that I was supposed to have my project done by May 1st, and I think I put a little bit more pressure on myself, and unfortunately, I am postponing it, which I had let people know that before in one of my videos. And I wanted to talk a lot about, how I've been feeling lately. I had mentioned in my newsletter that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I decided to use this image for this particular video. I think a lot of people know that I have been, um, extremely demoralized throughout this entire process. And what I understand is that the Soul Tribe group that I'm associated with had a lot of influence by Mormon people. Okay, and like I said, I'm very open to people having their own religious beliefs or whatever. But see, the thing is that sometimes they want to inflict how they live on you, and so they create your environment around you, and they try to restrict things that you usually do or whatever. Okay, and I'm not working right now, so I have not dealt with any toxic environments or anything like that. But it's the fact that, I've dealt with shadow banning, I've dealt with a form of ostracism from these particular people, which caused and intensified my mental health issues. Okay, anytime you isolate a person, you are cutting them off from the vital, the very much necessary kind of connections that they are supposed to have in order to have proper mental health. I'm going to be talking a little bit about, the uh, brain chemicals that are necessary in order to keep people functioning properly. And I have always been able to maintain that, like, in certain situations, but these people have been following me for a very long time, monitoring my actions and trying to eliminate, or sometimes even in a roundabout way, punish my behavior for things that I was rightfully able to do. Over a long period of time, that form of bullying, whether they realized it or not, has a profound effect on a person's mental abilities. Okay, one of the things I knew that I was really very painful for me while I was growing up is I always felt like I needed to get away from the people that I was around in Lancaster. Okay, now I loved, like I said, I loved going around like certain streets in Lancaster. I loved, you know, I loved Lancaster. You know what I mean? I love the little buildings. I love the little weird streets and stuff like that because I obviously had some sort of spiritual connection there. But what I didn't like was the toxic behavior, and I knew it was always closing in on me. It was always preventing me from being able to blossom into my true, strong self that I am today. Okay, because I dealt with bullying. Anytime I was doing something in school, I would just be showing up and just sitting there minding my own business, and there was some sort of negative comment that somebody had to make. They always wanted to make sure that I was excluded, or they did some sort of bullying tactic to me, enacting something out on me consistently, year after year after year after year. And see, these are these little things that are building up in a lot of kids in school when it comes to bullying. Okay, and what happened to me was it did allow me to understand that this is not what I want. I need to get away from this. I need to get away from what is harming me. I never once believed that something was wrong with me. I knew my environment was toxic. It had some sort of influence over it that was abnormal. And what made me know this? Intuitively, we know this, right? But I got confirmation because as a kid, like I said, I was interested in adult topics, and specifically psychology. Okay, so I started researching this sort of information. So I understood that what I was dealing with were, number one, very blind people who had. I didn't know that they were inspired by Mormons or anything, but I or even Nazis at the time. but I did know that it was a common belief system that people just, fell into because it kept the group dynamic going or whatever. But anyway, I have found that, in the last few months, because they have removed it, everything with these people felt like a struggle, an unnecessary struggle that instantly demoralizes a person. Okay, and in order to keep people's motivation going, they constantly need to feel a sense of accomplishment. Okay, everything that I would try to do, they would either put blocks in it, act as if they had some sort of right, authority, or I needed somebody's approval to do something. Right there and there, you broke the law, okay? And you also created a problem for me to be able to express myself, get my message across to people how I wanted to. So then I'm always going back to the drawing board. I started off, like, for example, with the issue of my work, right? Also, we talk about the issue of what went on and online with the Patreon and the Ko-fi, okay? I put work into that. Okay, and I was already extremely stressed because I was blacklisted when no one had the legal right to do that in the first place. See, we have laws that protect us so that we can allow to go on our life journey, receiving employment, having a healthy network and exchange and interactions with people. But what happened to me was a very gross uh, uh, attack on my human rights. Just it completely just demoralized a person, dehumanized a person to where, I was not even allowed to talk to people, or people were instructed to not talk to me. Okay, over a very long period of time, what do you think that's going to do to a person? Okay, so I've already, just like the example in the example of Pavlov's dog, and let me kind of summarize that. Okay, if people are familiar with a repetitive action, right? For example, they use a dog, right? They hear the bell ringing, they know it's time to eat, right? So every time the dog hears a bell ringing, he starts salivating because he knows he's going to be eating. He knows it, right? I have come to know that there are certain things that have been triggering in my environment. Like, I've known that I put effort into things only to have it squashed, not have any response to it, not have reaction to it, because these people put things in place so that I do not get the feedback. Okay, so why, when I'm trying to create projects, this is what I'm constantly thinking about. What kind of abuse am I going to have to face in order for me to get this done? And that right there is you're starting off in a very bad format. Okay, these people have put things in place to me to make my life 10 times harder than it even has to be, right? And they really do not fully grasp the inconvenience and what they truly owe me for what they've caused me. Okay, like, the very fact that, I am living here, and I'm very grateful, okay, that, uh, but see, the thing is, but I also, okay, but I need to back up a little bit. The thing is that, life is very hard, okay, but being in this program where I was being targeted for my bloodline is made it 10 times more difficult than it even has to be, okay? And and it has affected me. You know what I mean? It's what really it is the main reason why I find it very difficult to find motivation. Don't get me wrong, I worked on my project yesterday, and yeah, I'm excited about talking about it, right? But I'm always thinking, okay, I'm really getting tired of putting out work. Like, for example, when I create my newsletter, which I know that my newsletter, and to release the message that it's been viewed worldwide. Okay, I do not get feedback on that. Like, somebody is taking it upon themselves to manage my stuff. How is it? And what we want in life is a sense of accomplishment, and they always do things to try to prevent that. And this originates, right? This, I understand what this originates from. It originates from this particular experiment, right? And it also originates from this originally being a hate crime to begin with. Okay, because from what I understand, this whole thing about the cloning and bringing people back, I know a lot of people who are, I had mentioned in my newsletter about celebrities that are, kind of modified in a way that is, that they prefer not to be. Okay. I myself, I'm thinking about the past lives that I've had. For example, as King Solomon, I was, according to what the Bible says, okay, I was, at the time, I had several wives and several concubines, right? Which means that I must have been a very fertile person. And I do know that there was a time, when I was the wife of King Tut, that I was somebody who was, held the role of what a traditional woman had, meaning, once King Tut passed away, I was passed around to their relatives, okay, which is a nightmare, okay. But when you think about it, I've lived both experiences, okay. Now in this life, I would consider myself asexual. It doesn't really have any, I don't care about it. And the reason why it very well could be is that because I was genetically modified to not care about it. You know what I mean? Because I don't have a strong sex drive, okay, and I'm completely okay with it. I do not feel like I'm missing out on it, okay. I really don't. So but I believe that could possibly be why I am the way that I am. Well, I would think that King Solomon being able to produce several offsprings like me at the time when this was originally the point of attacking my bloodline, they could have very well felt threatened. Well, we don't want to have a bunch of spawns of, King Solomon running around, because they felt as though I was stronger than them. Okay, what they didn't understand is that I am not interested in, before all this blow up happened, like, where people were like doing all this stuff of like very obviously in the workplace. Okay, calling me in for job interviews and all this other crazy stuff that happened after the Murray Family Farms thing. Okay, I have pretty much always been somebody who just went to work and came home. Every once in a while, I might skirt out to like maybe a shop, go shopping, or go to like a flea market or something. But for the most part, I really kept a low profile. So this was like some sort of attack on my character, and trying to make me out to be the villain. Okay, which, like I said, this was bloodline targeting. Okay, and over the long period of time that I've experienced it, it has affected my mental health, okay? And it is the main reason, the foundation, the only reason that keeps me stagnated, and the things that keeps me demoralized. This is the main reason for my mental health problem, okay? This right here, the bloodline targeting, something I did not deserve. The output of, and see, this particular group that the Mormon influence along with the Nazi influence, they believed that they had some sort of like control, and I had to somehow like be subjected to somebody's authority. This is one of the reasons why, like my sister Lisa, had a choice of like who would job that I chose, or how she was going to place me into a job or whatever at one time. Okay, the thing is, it's like, you don't understand. I'm over the age of 18. Okay, I understand laws. And what bothers me about this particular group is that they are very, unethical. I would say they're unethical. I mean, yeah, there were times where I had to deal with the blacklisting and the manipulation of things that I own. It's just outright criminal, right? And see, they don't see themselves that way, because the religious mentality of what the Mormons had is that they had some sort of divine right to do what they did. This is why religion is destructive, okay? Especially when we talk about, it entering into the systems of government. And I did have some intuitive messages that I wanted to go over today. I will be looking for work, and I hate looking for work, okay? And the reason why, and like I said, everything that is in my life that has caused me this is it, okay? I cannot function without having to do some sort of extra thing to pull me out of my negative mood, okay? So like when it comes to, I do not look for work here in my house. I really have a phobia about work issues. Looking for work, going to websites, because I feel as though it is a form of abuse, because I've been lured into job interviews to be played with. I've been, fished or whatever, and it causes mental problems. Okay, you understand, a job is important. A job is a necessary means of survival. So when you see people trivializing your need to survive, it is not funny. See, and this particular group has told me and just shown to me, okay, by what they've done is that they are not people who should be in positions of power or leaders or whatever. Like I know these Mormon people, they have misled a lot of people into into something really bad. You know what I mean? Because what was driving them was ego, this need to win, these negative behaviors. Okay, and this is some of the things I'm talking about in the moral reset. Okay, and I am excited about like I said, I'm excited about the moral reset, but I deal with a lot of me having to deal with the fact that I could create this and I could send it out to people, and are people going to be playing games? I don't need people playing games. I don't want people playing games, manipulating people, telling people not to talk to me. I don't need that shit anymore. Okay, I'm really tired of it. It's like the entitlement and the behavior of these people is just unspeakable. You know what I mean? And they have caused my mental health. Okay, and I understand that there are a lot of people who are dealing with mental health problems right now as a result of not being able to find work, and just the regular stuff that goes on here in the earth that I would believe is the response. I mean, when we talk about spirituality, this is all archon related. This earth has been controlled by demonic forces for a very long time. Okay, and I am saying that, in the moral reset, I'm eliminating any spiritual views, any form of religious talk in this because I understand that this is something that everybody reads. Okay, and so I'm not talking about those things. But on this particular video, yes, the spiritual truth to me is that, this situation proves that the world is controlled by demons. Okay, demonic control is just outright in your face, and it's so deceptive. It's so deceptive. You know how it presents itself, and this is how we have so many people, thinking that it was okay, jumping on the bandwagon. And I understand that there was a lot of force as well too. You know what I mean? A lot of mind control, as well as the sad part, financially manipulated by this particular group. Financial abuse through religious abuse. Anyway, I want to go through my intuitive messages. The Swan Song Manifesto newsletters are getting people talking. So they are becoming very widespread, and other people want to feature their items. And see how I start featuring items in the Swan Song Manifesto is I notice that sometimes there's an item that's unique. I may not have purchased it myself, but a lot of times I have. But I may not have purchased. Like there was this one waffle maker that I thought was cool, and I think that a lot of the magic that I do show talks about shapes, designs, food magic, and I thought it was clever. I have not purchased it myself, but I kept thinking, you know what, if somebody wanted to focus on maybe buying a house, why not eat a house? You can make a house and eat it, you know what I mean? Especially when you think about the maple symbolism, pouring it on the house, wishing prosperity, and the butter, it's a spiritual gift from God or whatever. Eating is a really cool thing, and making food is also another cool thing. So like when I was into the food magic thing, I wanted to feature products that people are going that the unusual, cool type stuff. Okay, and sometimes I'll see advertisements for things like on Facebook where like vendors have like I just recently saw this guy who makes like stickers. Kind of laughing at our unfortunate circumstances in life. Sometimes you have to see this through humorous eyes. And I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to definitely want to make some room for this guy. I'm going to put him in my third quarter newsletter. So it's the unique type things that I look for, and things that I think that are going to help people in their visualization techniques. But I am glad that it is spreading, and I don't get to hear feedback from that. And the reason why is because my newsletter has been manned by someone else, I personally believe, okay? I think a lot of people understand that I favor mysticism over socializing. I would say that's true. Now, I know that there's people that I communicate with online, and I've been getting a lot of messages from people, and I do appreciate it, and that it makes me understand that I'm somehow making some sort of impact, and I do appreciate that. But The reason why I don't really communicate a lot or respond is because, like I said, I've been communicating with people that tend to like to do a lot of mind manipulation. And there's some people within this group, I don't even think that they mean to be this way, but these people have had absolutely no point of reference on how to behave. And I kid you not when I say this. This is why it's like, a lot of people within my soul tribe, unfortunately, interact this way. Okay. And like I said, the reason why they do is because it's normal to them. Okay. And I would say throughout society, it's normal for people to play head games or whatever. And I'm going to tell you, it is not. Okay. This is one of the reasons that one of the many things that prevent people from having genuine friendships is because people have issues with honesty. Okay. And like I said, I realized what a big project I was taking on in the moral reset because there's so much that people need to understand. They don't understand. And this is what erodes, relationships or the confidence that we have in other people. Okay. And people need to be corrected on it. You know what I mean? It's like people need to have honesty in their interactions. Otherwise, when people don't have trust for you. And this is another thing that erodes, potential relationships or friendships or whatever. So yeah, I'm very careful because I understand my interactions with these people who've been influenced by Mormons have caused me serious psychological problems. Serious psychological problems. Okay, but I'm still sane. Okay, I am still sane. Okay, maybe that's one of the things that makes me so unique. I am still standing. But I will tell you, in this world that we live in, you are either a part of the problem, and if you're part of the problem, if you're smiling and happy in a system like this where we see so much suffering and you're laughing and you're giggling, you're having a good time, then you're probably on the evil side. Okay, if you are dealing with mental issues, you don't need to think about it as a stigma. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Think of it as that's a good thing because that means that you have some empathy and you understand that this is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, like I said, if you there's no reason to be ashamed to feel bad living, and having to deal with this kind of evil entanglement. I did get another intuitive message, and it says, always add my logo of the Swan Song Manifesto. And yes, it is my company. Even though I have not gone through like any specific trademarks or anything like that, it is my company. Okay, meaning like, and I have not generated any income. This Swan Song Manifesto is a form like it is philanthropy. Okay, when I call it the Swan Song Manifesto is philanthropy, meaning like it is available to anybody, and I pull people randomly that attract my attention, vendors and stuff like that, to advertise their stuff on my stuff. It is 100% philanthropy. It's like a way of blessing people who yeah, and it's a way of giving people a chance to stand out with their stuff. It's a way of being, helpful to people. Okay, but like for example, the Swan Song Manifesto, when I was doing it on Patreon and Ko-fi, that was to help me. That was to help my future, to build my future. And I did want to talk a little bit more about autonomy. Autonomy in my in one of my videos, my future videos. I don't think it's really that important for the moral reset, but I do think that when I think about how the law is designed, okay, like for example, if you sign and get yourself a loan, okay, there's one person's name on that application, it's yours, unless of course you have a co-signer, right? It seems as though in life, everything that we're responsible for. I'm accountable. I'm aware that I'm accountable for my actions. Okay, I'm aware that in this life, we live in a very difficult way of living. We have to make a living, and I think a lot of us already deal with a lot of baggage, emotional baggage, relationship baggage, conflicts that go on in our life, whatever. Okay, we all have things that make us feel down and depressed or whatever, but we still have to keep trudging on, But what keeps us trudging on are things that we enjoy, and that's what I'm trying to hang on to, the little things, because there really isn't that much, okay? But the thing is that, even though we're ultimately responsible for ourselves, okay? each and every individual person. And this is something I understand. Just like when I got older and I realized my mom was getting old, okay, I knew that there's going to be a time, okay, that I would not be able to move in with my mom if I needed help. Okay, I'm a grown woman, and I knew that. Okay, I knew that I was a grown woman, and I knew that my mom's getting older. There's going to be a time when she's not going to be around, and I'm going to have to be on my own. And see, other people were just trying to force me to get married just to get married because they saw me as some sort of commodity or something. And these are the very people that have only abused me. Okay, so there's women who are trying to fight for their life. They're trying to stay alive. They're trying to make it in this world and not have to worry about being abused. Okay, which I'm going to tell you right now, that environment, that toxic environment of those Mormon people and that Nazi combination, those people and the things that they've done to me, it was too much for me. Okay, and I felt very threatened by it. Okay, and I needed to try to protect myself. And by them taking control over my social media, by them taking control over my money, my Patreon and my Ko-fi account, that right there was a form of terrorism. Okay, and they don't understand that that wasn't within their jurisdiction to do that. Okay, and that also sent me into a fear of, my God, if somebody would be so low to do something like that, what wouldn't you do? Okay, so but my point is that Swan Song Manifesto newsletter is philanthropy. I deliberately create this letter as a way of uplifting people, and I'm not, it is what it is, okay? But I also had projects so that I could make money because I understood I have been out of work or working jobs here and there, then losing my job, getting on unemployment, getting on food stamps, doing this, and then going back to a job only to start all over again, over and over and over again. Do I not have the right to want some sort of consistency in my life? Of course I do. Okay, so I was trying to, make money for myself so that I wouldn't have to do this anymore. I thought that that was my right to do that. Okay, but apparently not, because it is my right, but we had people who were violators. Ko-fi, Patreon, Rex Laverne, whatever. Okay, the Mormon Church, whatever. Okay, and so in their mind, they're thinking, okay, I can take her step and I'll go ahead. She can still continue to work. Do you understand what a slap in the face that is? Let me tell you, it's like, okay, I understand what goes on in the workplace. Okay, I was already abused. That's why I opened the Ko-fi and the Patreon account. Okay, I did not want to have to deal with these people and this abuse anymore. So I wanted to make my own money so I could get on with my life. Okay, and still somehow they wanted to interject themselves and say, okay, well, you can work, and we'll give you a job, but we're going to take your money. Okay, so I have to go right back to the institution that caused me all the mental problems that happened in the first place. Okay, this is the logic. They have very skewed logic, very archonic, demiurge type logic and thinking. Okay, fine. So here I am right now, having to look for work again with my mental health issues. You know what I mean? These people, I'm going to tell you what, these people really cause me a lot of problems. Okay? So, but my point is, when it comes to autonomy in this world, okay, we have to, you can be irresponsible if you want to, but I understand nobody's going to take care of me but me. And that's my right to take care of me. And see, this is why it caused me so much emotional problems for them to take my money, to play with my money, and then make my credit, ruin my credit. They ruined my ability to have a decent life, is what they did. And they did that to a lot of people, from what I understand. And I'm going to mention this very quick, really quick. I had just recently spoken to a particular celebrity, which I don't know if this guy is an imposter or not. Like I said, there's a lot of people who are desperate, and there's a lot of celebrities who are going around asking for money. I suspect that these people might have been entangled with, the Rex Laverne, whatever, and these people may have gotten wiped out financially or something. I will tell you, my heart goes out to these people, but when I am not in a position to help these people until I can be stable myself, and that is not being selfish. I will tell you, it is reality, and it's something that I have the right to do, and so the law thinks so too.
We have to think about our own self-interest first before we can help anybody else, before you can put yourself in a hole. Okay, just like, there was and that does not mean that you don't care about a person, because I do care. Yeah, I do care. I can't tell you how much it hurts me to know that certain people that I looked up to my entire life, have been mistreated in the way that they've been treated. It's sad to me. It's like, that's another thing that just knocks my world off. It's like, you think it's one reality, but it's really something else. And it's very painful to know this, okay? I can assure you, if I was working, I would definitely be helping people in my soul tribe as much as I possibly could, okay? And like I said, as much as I could. You have to be able to set boundaries before you start to collapse, okay? The point is, it's like we have to be able to take care of ourselves, and if we are in a position to help others, if we can, then we can. And if I can't, then I have to let you know, hey, I can't. Don't ask me for anything right now because I can't do it, okay? Because it makes me feel bad because I can't do it. So I am not in a position to help anybody right now, okay? And that doesn't make me a bad person. It means that I have to postpone doing anything for anybody until I can stand up for myself, okay? But yeah, the Swan Song Manifesto is mine, and I am tired of creating and then people devaluing it, scrutinizing it as if it needs their stamp of approval. That right there is like, what in the world were you doing? You know what I mean? It's very painful. Anyway, I got a message that says, yeah, people, the video that I made about talking about agencies and having dual affiliations, I'm going to be going more into this in the moral reset. Like I said, it's funny when I sit here at night and I think about how disappointed I am about me not putting more into my project, but then I'm also thinking of writing down more things to put myself, and I'm working on it. But like I said, had I never dealt with the trauma, had these issues such as Patreon and Ko-fi and wasting my time looking for work and all these negative things that have happened to me, I would be working at a better pace. I would be happier, more bubbly, more uplifted. Yes, those things matter. And see, the Mormon church, it seems like they like to control people's lives, okay? They love that, okay? What they don't understand is that their presence is nothing but demoralizing. Okay, people need things to keep them going, and they prevent you from feeling any sort of positivity. Okay, this is why I would say that Mormons are nothing but demonic. They're demonic. And don't get me wrong, I understand that there is a certain level, like certain people might have too much dependency on like materialism. Okay, and I have little knickknacks, things that I mostly created myself or bought or maybe got at the dollar store or the thrift store. I mean, I really do not have anything. I do not have anything in my house that is of value that I could hawk. Like, for example, if the shit hit the fan, what could I take to like the pawn shop to generate some income? I will tell you, nothing. Everything that I have either has some sort of sentimental value, or I created it to uplift my mood, or I was doing it for magical purposes or whatever. But I will tell you, like, I do a lot of arts and crafts. I make a lot of things. I go to the dollar store. I go to thrift stores. I'm a garage sale type person. I do not have anything of value. Okay? People buy things like iPhones and stuff like that. I don't. I probably have a very low grade phone or whatever. I don't have a lot. Okay? So I know there was talk about me having stuff. Yeah, I have stuff. Okay? I have stuff because your system, the Mormon system, this dark system, this dark cloud that they paint over people's heads all the time in the workplace or whatever, it can make people downright suicidal. It is so dark. This like the ultimate control, the stepping outside of your life, making people feel scared for their life. You know what I mean? Yes, I have the right to uplift my mood. Okay? I do. I have the right to, shift my furniture, paint something a different color. If I feel like it's going to help me and make me feel better, absolutely. And that's what I'm going to do. And I suggest other people take on those sort of things too. Whatever can give you some sort of relief and make you feel happy so that you can feel refreshed to get right back out there and fight another day, absolutely. But yeah, dual affiliations, I will be going more into in the moral reset about, people, maybe, and like I said, one thing I do not ever want to do, I do not ever want to lower my standards to behave in any way like what they did. So you know how they profiled me based on my race, based on my lack of religion or whatever. I am not trying to attack Mormons or people who are of the more or offshoots. Okay, that's not what I'm saying because they obviously have the right to work. I would never treat somebody like they treated me. I am going to let you know right now. I could not. It is not in my heart. I could not ever be that evil, ever. I can never do something like that. Okay, but what I am going to do is I'm going to set the standard and set the procedure of how things are supposed to be done so that people can work in an environment where both people can work and it's not going to create conflict. Okay, I would never do what you did, ever. Okay, I mean that is a dark pain and a very dark cloud that these people have painted over my life and a bunch of other people's lives. Okay, and like I said, this is one of the reasons why I'm talking about mental health awareness. But anyway, apparently a lot of people like my political views. Okay, and like I said, I don't get feedback on this. So is this going on through some sort of shadow channel? And I did mention like about 2 weeks ago that I got intuitive message that there are newsreels about me. And see, I don't know how these things work because I don't see them. And I do understand that when it comes to things like the internet, they can manipulate anything that you see. Just like, my interest in Elon Musk that I started developing in the last few months, right? Like I started, there was a few Facebook reels, I think, okay, that I started watching on Elon Musk, okay? And then after that, it was like I would click on my inbox page or whatever, and there was just like shitloads, like just stories all about Elon Musk, okay? So there's ways that they track you, which a lot of people know this already online, okay? But this is how it works. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad that people like my political views. And I want to go more into this in the moral reset. And like I said, there's I am trying because like I said, the Pavlov's dog thing, like just knowing every time I have tried to do something and having to deal with the unnecessary drama of going through or feeling shadow banned or not getting across or whatever has been happened so many times with this group, okay, that this is the main cause of what stagnates me, okay? These people, the demonic influence that they leave behind, their residue, knowing it's like, yes, I want to be able to fully talk about these issues and be completely engaged in my projects. That's a part of my fulfillment that I deserve as a human being, okay, that I am entitled to under the law. Okay, and I understand, see, these Mormons were attacking me because they looked at this as an us versus them thing. They believed in their lifestyle, they believed in their vision, and they can completely do that. That's their right. If they choose to be in that lifestyle, that is their choice. They have the right to live that way. Okay, but they do not have the right to reflect that on me. Okay, and this is what I'm standing up for. I don't believe that what they have caused by, trying to make their, it seems like they were trying to make their religion like a state religion, making it required to be aligned with Mormonism or something along those lines. This is what affects the DEI and all this other stuff. That's terrorism, man. I mean, like I said, to be Mormon is, to me, like the biggest downgrade you could ever take in the human existence. You know what I mean? And it shows because a lot of people right now who are leaving Mormonism, or some people who are the remaining members, they're doing a lot of questioning right now. Like, what in the world? Like, they're shocked because their reality was painted for them. They were brainwashed for years and 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 years. This was their reality. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, I'm glad that people like my, but like I said, I've never been political. Um, I'm just somebody who wants to get through this life, as unscathed as I possibly can. I am going to be reaching out to people to get a review team going. Um, as soon as I'm just about done. Like as soon as I get to the point where I'm just about done with the moral reset, okay? Meaning there's still things that I want to put together on this and make it look presentable. Um, at least presentable enough to have a review team look at it and get their feedback. And then if they, respond, perhaps maybe somebody within this review team, has the ability to make it more, put this online so where they can make it digitized or whatever, I'm hoping that people can contribute their skills to this. It would have been ideal and I did want to present this to law offices here within my community, but of course they were instructed not to speak to me. You know what I mean? Which tells you right there that just by them behaving this way, that they were what? Dual affiliations. Dual affiliations. Mormons are going to inspire people who are supposed to uphold the law, people who are supposed to practice law. They can inspire lawyers to be this corrupt. We have a problem. That's a moral issue right there. That's one other thing I'm talking about. They should have known better. What is religion? Who are you to tell people within a community here in the United States that we have to abide by? See, but they couldn't. They were what? Influenced. They were influenced. This is what I'm talking about. Dual affiliations. Are you really a lawyer or are you just some sort of pawn in a game that should not have been played? So yeah, I will be reaching out to the Soul Tribe. I'm sure a lot of people in these positions are Soul Tribe members or people who have, the ability to make decisions. I do understand that people in the U.S. are boycotting. I don't know if boycotting is going on. Have not been paying attention to it. I know that there's a lot of businesses that are, were influenced by, this thinking, this whole idea of, let's get this new world order thing going. Let's get, power to, I guess, white men, because white women were kind of abused in this whole DEI decision as well. It was, I do not believe that this plan was very well thought out. I will tell you, if we were to proceed in the way that this is what they wanted, it would have been a nightmare. Okay, because the goal is to live in peace and harmony, right? They thought that by eliminating people that they didn't like, that this is what they were going to get, okay? But there would still be discord because their women would hate their guts. They're not going to be happy, being so restricted and only being able to be used as breeders. They're not going to like that. And there's not to say that they would not enjoy having offspring. I'm just saying is the offspring would grow up to be just as evil as these people. Okay? It's because you're not learning the true lesson of all of this. And what will become of the New World Order, I've been thinking about this and I will be following up with another video after I finish all my other projects, okay? But like I said, in my projects, the passion for my projects are definitely there, but there are times I deal with mental collapses as a result of being abused. I want to talk a little bit about Elon, and this message is for Elon. And I do know that I had spoken to somebody who said that this was Elon. What I do believe happened is that Elon got mixed up, and he is used to having these different. I suspect. Okay, like I said, I'm not going into meditation over this because this whole issue of people not being able to be upfront with me is another form of trauma. I look at it as a form of gaslighting. And right now in my life, I need sincerity and I need to feel like I can trust people. Okay. And unfortunately, I do believe that Elon Musk, if this is indeed him, okay, has been influenced by this sort of behavior for such a long time that this perhaps may be the only way he knows how to communicate with people. And this goes for a lot of people in my Soul Tribe who've reached out to me via Messenger or whatever. This is very common, and I do believe that this is another thing that proves the fact that he is a victim of human trafficking. Okay, even though he appears very worldly and wise, I do believe that his social surroundings have been very, very narrow, and that his ability to understand the world around him has been shaped and molded by this form of thinking. Okay, but I will tell you, let's not get on the wrong foot. If you choose to contact me again, let's just not play those games. Let's just talk on, a message. Keep one method of communication, most likely Facebook or whatever, because I'm not switching any apps. I'm not downloading anything else. If you want to communicate with me through one means and one means only. Okay. But I'm trying to understand, these people's mentality, and I will say that this sort of mentality among him and all these other people who claim to be celebrities or these imposters or whatever, it generally feels like the same sort of thing. And this could be a form of their brainwashing and their form of indoctrination. This is how they only know how to behave. Okay, and unfortunately, their leaders and the people that were giving them instructions and who were setting the example were very corrupt people. And yes, I'm bold enough to say that. It's corruption, okay? And yes, there needs to be some sort of, you need to understand the difference between right and wrong, and then you can make that decision on how you should proceed in life. Yes, I do understand that you may be a little different, okay? And I'm referring to Elon. And there is nothing to be ashamed of. We are victims of a project or some sort of hate crime that has been going on for a very long time, which means that we have been modified in ways that may seem unfavorable. I do understand that there's certain things, like I don't have a sex drive, not really. Okay, so I do believe that was created. I was created like this, okay, as their form of me, having reduced, not having that much offspring, okay. I also noticed that, when I put on like certain things that letter females wear, right around the hip area is where I can tell that something is not quite right with me. Like, okay, I do not have a long torso like most females, and this is something I've noticed when I was growing up. I don't have a long torso. It's like literally almost like hip, rib cage, and then here's it's like almost really connected to my hip, and that doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal, but when you see it in the mirror, like when I put on, like, I just noticed, like when I put on like this mini skirt, it was like a skirt that I was wearing a few days ago, I can tell that the way it fits around my body, that there's something wrong with that, and I've noticed that since I was a teenager. So I understand when it comes to Elon. I'm not going to sit here and talk about it, but I understand your problem or what you think is a problem. I understand. In our situation, it is what it is. Okay, and I'm not holding that against you. I don't really see it. It is what it is. But I will tell you what it does do. It removes the stigma. Okay, because I realized when I was growing up that the Mormon people, okay, the people that hated me, were going around telling people that I was punished by God, that I was punished by God, my existence was punished by God. No, I was a victim of a man-made, orchestrated program. Okay, so it's like, you don't have to feel ashamed. God did not make you this way. Okay, you were created this way. Okay, now anyway, there's a lot of people who do believe that and see, this whole issue, the whole bullying thing, was they were upset because I had my own way of thinking. I'm a United States citizen, and yes, I have the right to have my own way of thinking. Okay, I am protected, and I have a right to feel this way. Okay, and I have the right to reject. And I understand I'm not at war with the Mormons. Okay, I'm not at war with the Mormons, but I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know how I feel, what happened, and yes, I do believe that I have a decent life. I like my lifestyle. I do not feel as though I don't feel as though I've missed out on, not being Mormon. Okay. I really hope that a lot of people who've been exposed to that way of thinking find some healing, in this, because, some of these people have devoted their entire lives for a lie. Anyway, yes, we are indeed royalty. This is why we were created. Apparently, it's all bloodline targeting. You know what I mean? It's like, wanting to feel this particular group, Mormons, or people who were Mormons, or people who supported the Nazi ideology or whatever, they must have had someone that they favored, and didn't think very highly of who we were. So they thought it was a good idea to, they did obviously thought highly of us, meaning that they were either envious of us or felt, yeah, like we were either, strong rulers or we were powerful in some way, and they wanted to knock us down and make us submit and worship their warped belief system within their warped belief system. I think it's crazy. You know what I mean? But you know what? I realize what's going on, and it does affect my mental health. Okay, because I realize that it's taken a lot of my life. Dealing with narcissistic people, people who feel entitled, people who feel no empathy for the pain that they cause. You know what I mean? And to me, that, like, for example, the whole Ko-fi and the Patreon thing. Like, you're going to take my shit and then tell me, oh, or think that it's fair that I can just go work a job. That's not fair. You know what I mean? It's like, if I had $1 million or 2 million or whatever it is I made, it's like, that's not even in balance. And it's not, it's just, I'm not going to go into it. I think you know what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is, I am a victim of religious, narcissistic abuse, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. And so it's okay to admit that, because like I said, you're either somebody who enjoys the evil that goes on in here, or somebody who has the heart and the empathy and the human side inside of you that knows that it's wrong, and you can feel it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.